Hello, this is Heather Hoffman, and I'm here with one last card using the December 2019 Kit of the Month from Unity Stamp Company. I was kind of inspired by a card that Angie Bloom had done using that beautiful heart image, and she'd done it as kind of the smoke coming out of the chimney on the little house image. And I thought it would be kind of fun to pair it up with that coffee cup, kind of make it a little bit like the steam coming out of the coffee cup. So I like to kind of roughly lay out my images a little bit. Granted, they're in reverse because I set them right side up, but it kind of helps me visualize the card a little bit so I can kind of plan where I want to start stamping. And I'm kind of doing it so that both of the images kind of go off the edge of the white cardstock a little bit. I'm using Gina K Designs amalgam ink. That way I'll be able to color this with Copic. And stamping, I'm kind of turning it around in my MISTI so that each time the arrangement works out so that I can stamp off the edge and there's space for the extra bar to the stamp to fit in that MISTI. My card panel is already an A2 size card panel, so 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. And I'm finishing up by adding the sentiment. One thing with some of those Unity sentiments, I use the grids to kind of line them up so that it's straight and make sure it's still going to stamp where I want it. All right, now that I've got this full image on there, I'm going to go ahead and pull this off, and I'm going to do some simple Copic coloring. I've listed on there the colors of Copics. I zoomed in a little so you can see. So I'm going to go ahead and stop talking while I color here and let you just watch that. And then I'll be back in a minute to tell you how I finish this card off. Now that I've finished most of the coloring on this, at this point I decided I wanted to make that heart on the coffee cup be red instead of just the black. So I could have just colored around it, but I went ahead, pulled that image back out, and I pulled out some red dye ink. This is just Simon Says Stamp Lipstick Red. And I stamped that whole entire image, and then I'm going to use scissors just to fussy cut out that heart. I'm leaving a little bit of a white border just because that'll help make sure it covers up the heart on the cup that's in black already, and it won't let any of that show through. So, all right, I've got that cut out. Now, before I adhere that down, I'm going to go ahead. I decided to add some color to the coffee cup with the same green Copic colors that I used up on my floral image. I'm continuing to list them up on the screen there. I'm keeping it pretty simple. You might notice all the coloring and shading. It's just 2 colors to blend it in, and making sure all my shading is correct. And then I'm going to attach that heart once I add a little more shading to the cup. I'm going to use the liquid glue. I could use any kind of tape, but the liquid glue works really well for a nice sturdy attachment. And there we go. That front panel's done. Now I trimmed down that front panel a little bit smaller so that I could mat it with some green cardstock. And then I'm going to adhere it onto a red card base. I basically pulled the colors from my Copic coloring to coordinate so that the assembled card is all going to be color coordinated together. All right, that finishes this card off nice and flat, 1 layer, great for mailing as well. Thanks so much for joining me. I hope to see you next week as we break out the January Kit of the Month and play with that. See you soon.